If your soul feels restless tonight, you are welcome here. You don't need to carry everything right now. Not in this sacred moment. Just breathe gently and let the burdens of today begin to fall away. Here in this stillness, you are held. The Lord sees your weariness. He knows the questions that have been weighing on your heart, and He is nearer to you than the air you breathe. Let the chaos of the world grow distant, and let your spirit find shelter in His presence. I invite you to press the subscribe button right now. Do not see this as a mere technical step, but as a gesture of faith, a gentle whisper to the Lord, "Lord, I open my heart. Come and protect my spirit and watch over my sleep." By choosing to walk with divine rest, you are allowing His word to envelop your room and soothe your mind every single night. Do not let tomorrow be another night of restless anxiety. Subscribe now. Let the love of Jesus heal your wounds and grant you the true rest you deserve tonight. Tonight, we step into the Book of Haggai, a gentle and awakening story for anyone who feels stuck, delayed, or weary from long seasons of waiting. If you have been lying awake thinking about plans that never moved forward, dreams set aside, or work that feels incomplete, this book is meant for you. Haggai speaks to the heart that has lost momentum, reminding us that God notices our discouragement and still calls us forward with kindness. It is written for moments when motivation feels thin and hope feels distant. It opens in a time when people have returned home but feel drained and uncertain, surrounded by unfinished work and quiet disappointment. Yet, through Haggai, God offers reassurance that He is present in the rebuilding, even when progress feels small. As you listen tonight, allow this story to release the pressure of self-blame and exhaustion. In the calm assurance of His presence, God turns weariness into renewed strength, reminding you that it is not too late to begin again, and you are safe to rest as He watches over you through the night. Chapter 1. When the temple is forgotten. My dear child, let us begin tonight by simply breathing together, slowly, gently, like the rhythm of waves returning to shore. In and out. Feel yourself held in this quiet moment. You are so tired, aren't you? I can hear it in the way your breath catches, in the way your body sinks into the bed as if you've been carrying the world on your shoulders. Tonight, you don't have to carry anything. Tonight, you can rest. And as we open this ancient book together, I want you to know that what you'll hear is not more weight, but an invitation into lightness, into peace, into coming home. The Book of Haggai begins with a people who are so very much like you. They had been far from home for a long time, wandering in a foreign land, carrying grief and longing in their hearts. And then, finally, they came home. Can you imagine the hope that must have filled them, the dreams of starting fresh, of rebuilding what was lost, of finally resting in the place they belonged? But when they arrived, beloved, they found that home was not what they remembered. Everything was broken. The city lay in ruins. And suddenly, the dream of restoration felt overwhelming. Where do you even begin when everything needs fixing? How do you find strength when you're already exhausted. So they did what any of us would do. They focused on what felt most urgent. They built their own houses, trying to create some small corner of safety in the chaos. They worked hard, so hard, to make their personal spaces comfortable, secure, beautiful even. And there is nothing wrong with wanting a safe place to rest your head, beloved. Nothing wrong at all. But here's what happened, so gently, so quietly, that they almost didn't notice. In their rush to build their own homes, to create their own security, they forgot about the temple. Not on purpose, not because they were bad people, but because they were tired. And tired people forget what they need most. The temple, the place where they were meant to meet God, the center that was supposed to hold everything else together. It lay empty, in ruins, forgotten. And then one day, God spoke. Not with thunder or anger, but with the gentle voice of someone who loves you, noticing what you cannot see. Through the prophet Haggai, he said, "Is it time for you to live in your paneled houses, while my house lies in ruins? Breathe with me now, dear one. Let that question settle softly in your heart." God wasn't scolding. He was observing. He was saying, "Look, beloved. Look at what's happened. You've poured everything into building your own life, making it beautiful, making it secure. But the place where you meet me, the center where your soul finds rest, it's empty. And I miss you there." This isn't about buildings or construction projects. This is about you and me, about all of us who are so tired that we've forgotten where true rest comes from. We work so hard to make our outer lives look good, to keep all the pieces together, to maintain the appearance of having it all under control. But inside, where it matters most, where we used to meet God in the quiet, where we used to feel His presence like a warm embrace, there's nothing but dust and silence. You haven't meant for this to happen. You've just been so busy surviving, so focused on getting through each day, that somewhere along the way, you stopped making time for the one who gives you strength to keep going. And tonight, beloved, He's not angry about that. He's just gently pointing it out, the way someone who loves you might say, "You look so tired. When was the last time you really rested? When was the last time you let me hold you? Let your shoulders drop a little more. Feel the tension beginning to release. You don't have to fix everything right now. You don't have to suddenly become perfectly spiritual. But you can hear this gentle voice tonight, this loving invitation. Come back to the center. Come back to me. Not because I'm demanding it, but because you need it. Because you can't keep running on empty. Because I miss you. And I know you miss me too, even if you've been too tired to remember. The people in Haggai's time had beautiful houses, but empty hearts. They had security on the outside, but chaos on the inside. And maybe, just maybe, you know exactly how that feels. Maybe your life looks fine from the outside, but inside you feel like you're barely holding it together. Maybe you've built all these structures to keep yourself safe, but you've forgotten to build the one thing that actually gives you peace. God sees that, beloved. He sees your beautiful, paneled house. He sees how hard you've worked to create some sense of stability. And He's not asking you to tear it all down. He's just asking you to remember the temple, to remember that place where you and He meet, where your soul finds the rest that sleep alone cannot give, where you are reminded that you are loved, held, never alone. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let this thought rest gently in your mind. The temple can be rebuilt. What has been forgotten can be remembered. Who you used to be with God, that closeness you once knew, it's not lost forever. It's just waiting for you to turn back toward the center, to make a little space, to whisper, "I'm here. I'm tired, but I'm here." That's enough, dear one. That small turning is enough. God isn't asking for perfection. He's just asking you to come home to the place where you've always belonged, the place at the center of your soul where He dwells, where He's been waiting all along, ready to wrap you in peace like a blanket, ready to remind you that you are His beloved, and you don't have to carry this weight alone. Now, beloved, as your breathing grows softer and your body melts deeper into rest, let me tell you about the words the people kept saying. Words that are so familiar, so human, so achingly honest. The time has not yet come, they said. Not yet. Not now. Maybe later, when things settle down, when life gets easier, when we're not so tired. Oh, how well I understand those words. How many times have you said something similar? I'll spend time with God when I'm not so busy. I'll pray when I have more energy. I'll read my Bible when life calms down a bit. I'll go back to church when I feel less overwhelmed. Not yet. Maybe later. When the time is right. And beloved, I want you to know that God understands this too. He knows you're not making excuses. He knows you genuinely are exhausted. He knows your days are full and your nights are short, and you're doing the very best you can just to keep your head above water. He sees all of that with such tender compassion. But here's what He also sees, what He's gently trying to show you tonight. Not yet has a way of stretching on forever. It has a way of becoming never without you even noticing. Because life doesn't get easier on its own. The perfect time doesn't suddenly arrive like a gift wrapped in a bow. There will always be something. Always another reason to wait. Always one more thing that feels more urgent than tending to your soul. The people Haggai spoke to had been home for 16 years. 16 years of saying not yet. 16 years of meaning to get around to it. 16 years of fully intending to rebuild the temple someday. And still it lay in ruins. Because someday never quite came. Take a gentle breath, dear one. Let me ask you something softly, without any judgment, just curiosity wrapped in love. How long has it been since you felt truly close to God, not going through the motions, not saying quick prayers in desperate moments, but really close, really connected, really experiencing His presence as something real and warm and alive? How many months or years have passed while you kept saying, not yet? Maybe when life calms down. and life never quite calmed down, I'm not asking this to make you feel guilty. Guilt is heavy, and you're already carrying too much. I'm asking because sometimes we need someone to gently hold up a mirror and say, "Look, beloved, see what's happened. See how long you've been waiting for the perfect time, and it hasn't come. See how tired you are from trying to do life without the one who gives you strength." Here's the truth that can set you free tonight. Making time for God isn't one more thing to add to your impossible list. It's the thing that makes everything else possible. It's not another burden. It's the place where burdens are lifted. When you spend time in His presence, when you let Him fill the empty temple at the center of your soul, you don't end up with less energy for everything else. You end up with more, because you're not running on your own limited strength anymore. You're drawing from a well that never runs dry. The people thought they were being practical. We'll get to the temple later. Right now, we need to focus on survival, on building our homes, on taking care of what feels urgent. But what they didn't realize is that neglecting the temple was making everything harder. They were working and working, but never feeling satisfied. They were striving and striving, but never finding rest, because they were trying to build their lives from the outside in, when what they needed was to start from the center and let everything else flow from that place of connection with God. Let your mind grow quiet now, beloved. Let the thoughts that spin and worry begin to slow like a carousel coming to rest. You've been waiting for the right time, the perfect moment, the day when you'll have energy and clarity and everything will feel just right to return to God. But that day doesn't come on its own. That day is today. That moment is now. Right here, right now, as you lie in the darkness feeling small and tired and wondering if you matter. This is the moment. Not because you have to perform, not because you have to suddenly be spiritual, but because you can simply say, "God, I'm so tired. I've been waiting for the right time to come back to you, and I'm starting to realize the right time is just now. Just this moment. Just me being honest about how empty I feel and how much I need you. That's all it takes, dear one. Not a grand gesture, not a complete life overhaul, just a small turning from not yet to yes, here I am. Just opening a tiny crack in the door you've been keeping closed and letting the light begin to stream in. God isn't waiting for you to be ready. He's ready. He's been ready. He's been standing at the door of the temple in your soul, waiting for you to remember He's there, waiting to fill you with peace, with strength, with the love that makes everything else bearable. The time has come, beloved. Not because the circumstances are perfect, but because you need Him now, today, tonight, in this very moment. And He is here, closer than your breath, softer than the pillow beneath your head, saying, "Come home, come back to the center. Let me be what you've been missing. Let me fill the empty places. Let me remind you who you are and how much you are loved." And now, my precious child, as sleep pulls at you like a gentle tide, let me whisper to you the most tender truth of all. God sees. He sees the temple lying in ruins. He sees the empty place at the center of your life where He longs to dwell. He sees how you've been living, working so hard to hold everything together on your own. And His seeing is not judgment. It is pure, aching love. When God asks, "Is it time for you to dwell in your paneled houses while my house lies in ruins?" He's not angry that His house is neglected. He's concerned that you are living without what you need most. The temple isn't for Him. Beloved, God doesn't need a building. He is infinite, beyond all containing. But you need the temple. You need that sacred center. You need that place where you meet Him, where you remember who you are, where you are filled and renewed. Think of it this way, dear one. Imagine a house with beautiful rooms, lovely furniture, everything in its place. But at the center, where the hearth should be, where the warmth should come from, there's nothing but cold stones and ashes. The house looks good from outside, but inside it's cold. Inside, no matter how many rooms you add, no matter how much you decorate, there's no warmth radiating out to fill the spaces. That's what happens when the temple lies in ruins. That's what happens when you're building your life all around the edges, but the center, the place where you meet God, is empty. You can work harder, achieve more, acquire more, but nothing quite fills the cold. Nothing quite satisfies the longing, because you were made to have God at your center, radiating out warmth and light and life to everything else you do. God sees this in you tonight, beloved. He sees how you've been trying to warm yourself with your own efforts, how you've been trying to create meaning and purpose and peace on your own. And He's not disappointed in you. His heart is full of compassion for how tired you are, how hard you've been trying, how much you've been carrying alone. But He also knows something you may have forgotten. He knows that you were never meant to be your own source. You were never meant to sustain yourself, comfort yourself, strengthen yourself from your own limited resources. You were meant to be connected to Him, to draw from His unlimited supply, to rest at the center where His presence dwells, and let everything else flow from that place of deep peace. When the temple is tended, when you make time to be with Him, to sit in His presence, to let Him love you back to life, everything else begins to change. Not because you're suddenly perfect, but because you're finally connected to the source. Your work has meaning because it flows from rest, not from striving. Your relationships have depth because you're being loved, and that love overflows. Your challenges have hope because you're not facing them alone. But when the temple lies empty, when weeks and months pass without you really connecting with God, everything gets harder. You feel more anxious, more depleted, more like you're running a race with no finish line, and you don't always know why. You can't quite name what's missing, but deep down, in the quiet moments, you feel it. The emptiness at the center, the cold hearth, the ruins where life should be flowing from. Close your eyes now, beloved. Feel the darkness holding you like a soft embrace. God is showing you the ruins tonight, not to shame you, but to invite you back. Back to the center. Back to the place where He dwells. Back to the hearth that can warm your whole life if you'll just tend the fire there. You don't have to rebuild everything at once. You don't have to suddenly become a spiritual giant. You can start so small. A few minutes in the morning, sitting quietly, saying, "God, I'm here. I'm tired, but I'm here." A moment at midday, remembering that you're not alone, that He's with you. A breath at night, like this one, where you let Him hold you as you fall asleep. These small moments, dear one, they're how you rebuild the temple, stone by stone, breath by breath, moment by moment. And God meets you in every one of them. He doesn't wait for you to get it perfect. He meets you in your tiredness, in your fumbling attempts, in your honest acknowledgement that you need Him more than you need anything else. The temple can be rebuilt. Beloved, the center can be restored. The cold hearth can glow warm again. Not through striving, not through effort, but through simple presence, through showing up, even when you're tired, through turning toward Him, even when it feels like you have nothing to give, through remembering that the most important thing isn't having your life perfectly together. It's having God at the center, radiating His love and peace and strength into every corner of your days. Rest now in this promise. Rest knowing that God sees the empty temple with compassion, not condemnation. Rest knowing that He's not waiting for you to be better before He'll draw near. He's already near. He's already here. He's just waiting for you to notice, to make a little space, to say, "Come in, dwell here, be the center of my life again." And when you do, beloved, when you begin to rebuild the temple even in small ways, you'll discover something beautiful. You'll discover that the life you've been trying so hard to build on your own was always meant to be built from this center, from this place of connection with Him. And everything, absolutely everything, becomes lighter when you stop trying to be your own source and let Him be the hearth from which all warmth flows. Sleep now, dear child. Sleep knowing you are loved. You are seen. You are invited back to the center. Tomorrow is a new day, a fresh beginning, another chance to choose the temple over the endless building of paneled houses, another opportunity to let God be the center again, the warmth, the life, the peace you've been longing for all along. Amen. Chapter 2. Reconsider your path, my dear child. As we continue together through this gentle night, I want you to take a moment to simply be still. Let your body sink a little deeper into the bed beneath you. Feel how it holds you without effort, without strain. You don't have to do anything right now except rest and listen. And as we turn the page to this next chapter of Haggai, I want to prepare your heart for words that might feel tender, might touch places that are sore, but know that every word is spoken in love, wrapped in the gentlest care, meant not to wound, but to heal. The Lord speaks again through the prophet, and His voice is like a caring friend sitting beside you, helping you see what you've been too tired to notice. Now, therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. You have sown much and harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. And he who earns wages does so to put them into a bag with holes. Breathe slowly with me now, beloved. Let these words settle gently in your heart. God is describing something you know so well, isn't he? This feeling of working and working, but never quite getting ahead. Of giving everything you have, but somehow it's never enough. Of running faster and faster, but feeling like you're standing still. Of pouring yourself out day after day, but ending each evening just as empty as you began. You sow much. Oh, how much you sow. You work so hard. You give so much. You pour out your time, your energy, your heart into everything you do. Your job, your family, your responsibilities, all the things that demand pieces of you from morning until night. You are not lazy, beloved. You are not half-hearted. You are planting seed after seed after seed, working until your hands are tired and your back aches and you can barely keep your eyes open. But the harvest is so small. The return on all that investment feels meager, doesn't it? You work, but you're never quite satisfied. You eat, but you're never quite full. Not physically. Perhaps your stomach is fed. But inside, in the deep places, there's a hunger that never goes away. You drink, but you never have your fill. You're thirsty for something, and nothing you consume quite quenches it. You clothe yourself. You have what you need on the outside, but inside you feel cold, exposed, like there's no warmth reaching the core of who you are. And the wages, oh, the wages. You earn them, yes. You work for them faithfully. But it's like putting money into a bag with holes. It slips away so quickly. Not just the money itself, though maybe that's true too, but the reward, the satisfaction, the sense of accomplishment and rest that should come from a hard day's work. It all seems to leak away, leaving you wondering why you feel so empty when you've worked so hard. Let me speak very gently to you about what's happening here. Beloved, this isn't God being cruel, pointing out your failures to make you feel small. This is God being kind, helping you see a pattern you've been living in without realizing it. When the center is empty, when the temple lies in ruins, when you're trying to build your life without God at the heart of it, nothing quite works the way it should. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that you're trying to do everything from the wrong source. Imagine trying to fill a bucket from an empty well. You can work as hard as you want, lower the bucket, pull it up again and again, but if the well is dry, you'll never draw water. That's what life feels like when you're disconnected from God. You're working with the same effort, the same dedication, the same heart, but you're drawing from an empty source. And so no matter how much you sow, the harvest feels thin. No matter how much you pour out, you never feel full. This is the spiritual drought that Haggai is describing. It's not just about crops in fields or money in pockets. It's about the soul-deep exhaustion of trying to sustain yourself when you're cut off from the source of life. It's about working for bread that doesn't satisfy and water that doesn't quench, because what you're really hungry and thirsty for is God. And everything else you're trying to fill that space with just leaks away. Can you feel how true this is in your own life? Dear one, can you recognize yourself in these ancient words? You've been working so hard, giving so much, trying so desperately to make life work, to feel satisfied, to find rest. But it's like sowing seed in soil that can't nourish, like earning wages that slip through your fingers, like eating food that never quite fills you. And the weariness of it, the exhaustion of running and never arriving, it's breaking your heart. Isn't it God sees that? He sees how tired you are. He sees the holes in your bag, the thinness of your harvest, the cold you feel even though you're clothed. And He's not pointing it out to mock you or to add to your burden. He's pointing it out because He loves you too much to let you keep living this way. He's showing you the pattern so you can see it, so you can understand that the problem isn't that you're not working hard enough. The problem is that you're trying to draw life from sources that were never meant to sustain you. The harvest is small because you've been planting in the wrong field. The bag has holes because you've been storing treasure in the wrong place. You're hungry and thirsty and cold because you've been seeking satisfaction in everything except the one who made you, who knows what you need, who has an endless supply of the nourishment your soul is starving for. Let your shoulders drop as you hear this. Beloved, let the tension release. This isn't condemnation. This is invitation. God is saying, look, dear child, look at what's been happening. Look at how hard you've been working and how empty you still feel. Don't you see you need me? You need to come back to the center. You need to let me be the well you draw from, the field you plant in, the source that never runs dry. Tonight, as you lie here in the quiet darkness, let yourself feel the truth of these words. Yes, you've been sowing much and harvesting little. Yes, you've been working hard, but never feeling satisfied. But that doesn't have to be your story forever. The harvest can be abundant. The bag can hold treasure. You can be filled and satisfied and warm. But it starts with turning back to the source, with rebuilding the temple, with making God the center from which everything else flows. Rest in that hope tonight. Dear one, rest knowing that your emptiness has been seen, your weariness has been noticed, and you're not being blamed for it. You're simply being shown the way back to fullness, back to satisfaction, back to the life that actually nourishes instead of constantly draining you dry. The way back is simple. Return to the center. Return to God. And let Him fill what has been empty for far too long. Now, beloved, as your breathing grows softer and your body melts into deeper rest, let me share with you something that might sound hard at first, but is actually wrapped in the tenderest mercy. God continues speaking through Haggai, and He says something that makes us pause. You looked for much, and behold, it came to little. And when you brought it home, I blew it away. Why, declares the Lord of hosts? Because of my house that lies in ruins, while each of you busies himself with his own house. Therefore the heavens above you have withheld the dew, and the earth has withheld its produce. And I have called for a drought on the land and the hills, on the grain, the new wine, the oil, on what the ground brings forth, on man and beast, and on all their labors. Let me help you hear these words correctly, dear child, because they can sound harsh if we don't understand the heart behind them. God is saying, I called for a drought. He's taking responsibility for the emptiness you've been feeling, for the lack you've been experiencing. And that might make you pull back, might make you think, is God punishing me? Is he withholding good things because he's angry? No, beloved, no. Listen to me carefully. This isn't punishment. This is love doing what love must do when someone we care about is walking toward harm. This is a father gently taking away the distractions so his child will finally look up and see what really matters. This is a physician creating the conditions that allow healing to begin, even when the process feels uncomfortable. Think of it this way. Imagine a child playing with broken glass, so focused on the pretty colors that they don't notice they're cutting their hands. A loving parent doesn't stand back and let the child keep playing. They gently but firmly remove the glass, even though the child might cry, might protest, might not understand in that moment. The parent isn't being cruel. The parent is being loving, protecting the child from harm they cannot yet see. That's what God is doing here, dear one. You've been trying to build your life, to find satisfaction, to create security and meaning. But you've been doing it with the temple in ruins, with God pushed to the margins, with the center empty. And it's been cutting you, wounding you, leaving you more and more depleted. You couldn't see it because you were so focused on just surviving, just getting through each day. But God could see it, and because he loves you, he began to remove the things that were keeping you distracted from what you truly need. The drought isn't arbitrary. It's not random cruelty. It's a loving invitation wrapped in difficulty. When everything you try keeps failing, when every effort feels futile, when the harvest is consistently thin and the wages keep slipping away, eventually you have to stop and ask, why? What's happening here? What am I missing? And that question, beloved, that's exactly where God wants to meet you. That's the question that begins to open your eyes to see what's really been wrong all along. Why? God asks through Haggai. And then he answers his own question with such gentle clarity, because of my house that lies in ruins, while each of you busies himself with his own house. Do you hear the sadness in that? Not anger, but sadness. Like a parent saying, I've been watching you work yourself to exhaustion, building everything except what matters most. I've been watching you search everywhere except where true life is found. And I love you too much to let you keep going this way. The drought on the land, on the crops, on the wine and oil, on all your labors. It's not God being petty or vindictive. It's God being merciful in a way that's hard to understand when you're in the middle of it. He's allowing you to feel the natural consequence of trying to live without him at the center. He's letting the emptiness become obvious enough that you can't ignore it anymore, can't explain it away, can't just try harder and hope it gets better. Because here's the truth, dear child. If God had let you succeed in building a life without Him at the center, if He had let you find satisfaction in all those other things you were pursuing instead of Him, you would have been lost forever. You would have spent your whole life sowing and never harvesting, earning and never being filled, and you never would have known why. The drought, painful as it is actually mercy. It's God saying, stop, look, see what you're missing. Let me show you the way back to life. Breathe slowly now, beloved. Let this truth settle gently in your heart. The difficulties you've been facing, the ways things haven't worked out despite your best efforts, the persistent sense that something is missing no matter what you achieve. Maybe, just maybe, these aren't random bad luck. Maybe they're God's tender way of getting your attention, of helping you see that you need Him more than you need success, more than you need comfort, more than you need any of the things you've been chasing. He hasn't abandoned you in the drought. He's present in it, using it as a tool to wake you up, to draw you back, to help you remember where true satisfaction is found. And the moment you turn back, the moment you start rebuilding the temple, the moment you make God the center again, everything begins to change. Not because the external circumstances magically fix themselves, but because you're finally drawing from a well that never runs dry, planting in soil that always nourishes, storing treasure in a place where nothing is lost. The drought is not forever, dear one. It's only for as long as it takes to wake you up, to help you see, to draw you back to the source of life. And God is with you in it, not standing far off watching you suffer, but close beside you, whispering, come back, come home, let me be your satisfaction. Let me fill the empty places. Let me show you what it means to truly live. And now, beloved, as sleep draws so very near, as your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts begin to slow like a stream finding its quiet pool, let me share with you the most important words in this entire chapter. Twice God says it, and the repetition is like a gentle hand on your shoulder, a loving voice saying, please, listen, this matters, this is important. He says, consider your ways. Consider your ways. Not condemn them, not regret them, not despair over them. Consider them. Look at them. Really see them. Take a moment, beloved child, to stop running and simply observe what's been happening in your life. Stop striving long enough to notice the patterns, to see the truth, to recognize what you may have been too busy to see before. This is such a gift, dear one. Do you know how rare it is in our hurried, frantic world to simply stop and consider? We're always moving, always doing, always pushing forward to the next thing. We don't pause. We don't reflect. We don't take time to ask ourselves the deep questions. Where am I going? What am I building? Is this working? Am I living the life I was meant to live? Or am I just surviving, just getting through, just going through the motions? God is inviting you into that sacred pause right now. Not tomorrow when you have more time. Not next week when things calm down. Now, tonight, in this quiet moment, when the world is still and your defenses are down, and you can finally be honest with yourself and with Him. Consider your ways, He whispers. Look at your life. Really look at it. See what I see. What would you see if you really looked, beloved? Would you see someone who's been running on empty, trying to sustain yourself from your own depleted resources? Would you see someone who works and works but never feels satisfied? Who gives and gives but never feels full? Would you see someone who has built a beautiful exterior life but inside feels cold and hungry and desperately thirsty for something more? Would you see the pattern Haggai has been describing? Sowing much but harvesting little. Eating, but never full. Drinking, but never satisfied. Earning wages that slip away. Working for bread that doesn't nourish and water that doesn't quench. Would you see that despite all your efforts, despite all your good intentions, despite all your hard work, something essential has been missing? And would you see, if you look honestly, that what's been missing is God at the center, that you've been trying to build a life on the edges while the middle stays empty, that you've been so busy with your own house, your own concerns, your own attempts to create security and meaning, that His house, that sacred center where you meet Him and are filled by Him, has lain in ruins. Let your breathing slow even more now. Let your body release every bit of tension. This consideration isn't meant to bring shame. It's meant to bring clarity. It's meant to help you see so that you can choose, so that you can turn, so that you can begin moving in a different direction. Consider your ways, God says. And then He follows it with such hope, such possibility. In the verses that follow, which we'll hear in our next time together, He invites them to go up to the mountains, to bring wood, to rebuild the house. He doesn't leave them in the drought. He doesn't abandon them to their emptiness. He shows them the way forward, the path back to life, the simple steps they can take to begin the restoration. But it all starts here, beloved, with this sacred pause, this moment of consideration, this gentle looking at your life and seeing it clearly, perhaps for the first time in a long time. You've been so busy surviving that you haven't had time to notice you're not truly living. You've been so focused on the next task that you haven't stopped to ask if you're building what really matters. Tonight, in this soft darkness, in this quiet space between waking and sleeping, let God's invitation settle into your heart. Consider your ways, not with harsh judgment, but with gentle honesty, not to condemn yourself, but to see clearly so you can choose differently. Look at the patterns. Notice the emptiness. Feel the weariness of working without satisfaction, of giving without being filled, of living without the one who is life itself. And as you consider, as you look honestly at where you've been and what you've been doing, let hope begin to rise in your heart. Because the same God who asks you to consider your ways is the same God who offers you a way forward. The same God who points out the ruins is the same God who promises to help you rebuild. The same God who called the drought is the same God who will send the rain when you turn back to Him. You don't have to have all the answers tonight. You don't have to fix everything right now. You just have to see. Just consider. Just let the truth sink in gently, wrapped in love, held in the tender hands of a God who knows exactly what you need and is ready to give it the moment you turn back toward Him. Rest now in this sacred pause. Beloved, rest knowing that consideration is the first step toward transformation. Rest knowing that seeing clearly is the beginning of change. And rest knowing that God isn't asking you to consider your ways so He can condemn you, but so He can heal you, redirect you, and fill you with the life you've been hungering for all along. Sleep now with this gentle invitation ringing in your spirit like a soft bell. Consider your ways. Look, see, understand. And then, in the morning light, in the new day that's coming, you can begin to choose differently, to build differently, to live from the center instead of the edges, to let God be the source from which everything else flows. You are so loved, dear child, so deeply, tenderly, completely loved. And this invitation to consider your ways is just one more expression of that love, one more gentle nudge toward the abundant life you were always meant to live. Receive it as the gift it is. Let it do its quiet work in your heart, and trust that the God who asks you to look is the same God who will help you rebuild when you're ready to begin. Amen. Chapter 3. Small obedience and the promise of staying together. We've walked through the ruins. We've seen the emptiness. We've considered the ways. And now something beautiful is beginning to unfold. Something so simple and yet so profound that it can change everything. Take a slow breath with me. In and out. Feel yourself held in this tender moment. Tonight, you're going to hear about what happens when tired people find the courage to say yes, even the smallest yes, to God. Listen to these gentle words from the Book of Haggai. Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, with all the remnant of the people, obeyed the voice of the Lord their God, and the words of Haggai the prophet, as the Lord their God had sent him. And the people feared the Lord. They obeyed. That's all it says. Beloved, they obeyed. Not perfectly, not with grand gestures or dramatic transformations. They simply heard God's voice through the prophet, and they said yes. After 16 years of saying, not yet, after all that time of being too tired, too busy, too overwhelmed, something shifted. They heard, and they obeyed. I want you to notice something beautiful here. Dear one, the text doesn't say they suddenly became different people. It doesn't say they were no longer tired or that their circumstances magically changed. The ruins were still ruins. The work was still overwhelming. The obstacles were still there. But something in their hearts responded to God's gentle invitation, and they said, yes, we'll begin. We don't know how it will all work out, but we'll start. This is such good news for you tonight, beloved, because maybe you've been thinking that you can't return to God until you're stronger, until you have more energy, until you feel more spiritual, until your life is more together. Maybe you've been waiting until you can offer God something impressive, something worthy of His attention. But look at these people. They were the remnant, which means they were what was left after everything had fallen apart. They were tired. They were overwhelmed. They were still living in the middle of all the brokenness. And yet, they obeyed. Your obedience doesn't have to be perfect, dear child. It doesn't have to be impressive or dramatic or life-changing all at once. It just has to be real. It just has to be you, exactly as you are right now, tired and small and uncertain, saying to God, I hear you, and I'm going to try. I don't have much to give, but I'm going to start. I'm going to take one small step back toward you. That's all He's asking for tonight. Not a complete transformation, not a massive overhaul of your entire life. Just one small yes. Just the willingness to begin. Just the courage to say, I've been living with the temple in ruins for too long, and I'm ready to start rebuilding, even if I can only lay one small stone at a time. Let your shoulders drop as you hear this. Beloved, feel the relief of knowing that obedience isn't about being perfect or having it all together. It's about responding to God's voice with whatever you have, however small it might seem. The people in Haggai's time didn't wait until they felt ready. They didn't wait until conditions were perfect. They just heard God calling, and they answered. And that simple yes, that small obedience, was enough to set everything in motion. Notice also what the text says: the people feared the Lord. Not the kind of fear that makes you want to run away, but the kind that makes you pause in wonder. The kind that helps you see how big God is and how small you are, and instead of feeling threatened by that, you feel safe, like a child who realizes their parent is stronger than any danger, and so they can rest because they're protected. This fear, this reverence, it's what happens when you stop trying to be your own God, your own source, your own sustainer. It's what happens when you finally see that you need Him more than you need anything else. And that seeing, that recognition, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's the beginning of wisdom. It's the doorway back to life. So tonight, as you lie here in the quiet darkness, let me ask you gently, what would it look like for you to obey? Not in some huge, overwhelming way, but just in this moment, in this breath. What small yes is God asking you to speak? Maybe it's just saying, God, I'm here. I'm tired, but I'm listening. Maybe it's choosing to spend a few minutes with Him tomorrow morning instead of immediately reaching for your phone. Maybe it's whispering, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need you. Whatever it is, beloved, know that it doesn't have to be big to matter. The people obeyed, and that was enough. Your small yes is enough. You're tired, imperfect, stumbling response to God's voice is enough. Because obedience isn't measured by how impressive it looks. It's measured by whether you showed up, whether you responded, whether you said yes when everything in you wanted to keep saying, "Not yet." You can do this, dear child. You can take that first small step, not because you're strong, but because God is gentle, not because you have it all figured out, but because He's patient with your fumbling, not because you deserve it, but because He's been waiting for this moment, waiting for you to simply say yes. And He's ready to meet you there with arms wide open and a heart full of joy that His beloved child is finally coming home. And now, beloved, as your breathing grows softer and your body melts into deeper rest, let me share with you the most beautiful words in the entire book of Haggai. Words that can heal wounds you didn't know you had. Words that can quiet fears you've carried for so long. Words that can change everything if you let them sink deep into your heart. After the people obeyed, after they said yes, God spoke again through Haggai. And listen to what He said. Just 5 simple words in English, 4 in Hebrew. But oh, how they contain the entire universe of comfort. Then Haggai, the messenger of the Lord, spoke to the people with the Lord's message. "I am with you," declares the Lord. I am with you. Let that settle over you like a warm blanket on a cold night. Beloved, I am with you. Not, "I will be with you once you get your act together." Not, "I am with you if you perform perfectly." Not, "I am with you when you deserve it." Just, I am with you. Present tense. Right now, in this moment, in your tiredness, in your weakness, in your small, stumbling attempts to obey, I am with you. Do you know what this means, dear child? It means that when the people decided to rebuild the temple, God didn't stand at a distance watching to see if they could manage it on their own. He didn't wait to see if they were serious, if they would follow through, if they deserved His help. The moment they said yes, the moment they took that first small step of obedience, He was there, right there with them. Not as a critic or a judge, but as a companion, a helper, a friend who would walk every step of the rebuilding journey with them. This is the heart of the gospel, beloved. This is what it means to have a God who doesn't just command from heaven, but comes down to be with us in our mess, in our brokenness, in our fumbling attempts to do what's right. You're not alone in rebuilding the temple of your heart. You're not alone in trying to make God the center of your life again. He's with you. Every step, every breath, every small choice to turn toward Him instead of away. Let me tell you why these words are so healing, dear one. Because so many of us carry this deep fear that we're on our own. We believe that God gave us the assignment, told us what to do, and then stepped back to see if we could handle it. We think He's watching from a distance, grading our performance, ready to be disappointed when we fail. And so we're terrified to even begin, because we know we can't do it perfectly, and we think that unless it's perfect, He won't be pleased. But that's not what this verse says. That's not who God is. He says, "I am with you," not standing back, not waiting to see, but with you in it, involved, present, as committed to the rebuilding as you are, perhaps even more so. He's not asking you to do this alone. He's inviting you into partnership, into a joint project where you bring your small yes and He brings His infinite power, where you bring your willingness and He brings His ability, where you bring your tired, broken self and He brings His strength that never fails. Take a slow breath now, beloved. Feel the weight lifting. You don't have to rebuild the temple of your soul all by yourself. You don't have to figure out how to restore your relationship with God through sheer willpower. You don't have to be strong enough or wise enough or spiritual enough. You just have to show up, to say yes, and He will be there with you, doing what you cannot do, strengthening you where you're weak, filling you where you're empty. I am with you, He says. And these words echo throughout all of Scripture, don't they? They're the same words He spoke to Jacob when he was running away, frightened and alone. I am with you. The same words. He spoke to Moses when Moses felt inadequate for the task ahead. I will be with you. The same words He spoke to Joshua when Joshua was overwhelmed by the responsibility of leadership. I am with you. The same words Jesus spoke to His disciples before He ascended. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. This is God's consistent, unwavering promise to every person who turns toward Him, who says yes, however imperfectly, who takes even the smallest step of obedience. I am with you. You are not alone. You have never been alone, and you never will be alone, even when you couldn't feel His presence, even when you thought you'd wandered too far, even in your worst moments and your darkest nights. He was there. He has always been there, and He always will be there. These 4 words. I am with you. They're not just a nice sentiment, beloved. They're a promise that changes everything. They mean that when you're too tired to pray, He's still with you, holding you in the silence. They mean that when you fail, when you stumble, when you take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, He's still with you, steady and patient and full of grace. They mean that when the work feels too hard and you want to give up, He's with you, lending you His strength, carrying you when you can't walk anymore. You don't have to be afraid of starting, dear child. You don't have to be afraid of trying and failing. You don't have to be afraid that you'll disappoint God or that He'll abandon you if you're not good enough, because He's already declared His commitment to you. He's already promised to be with you, not based on your performance, but based on His character. Not because you earned it, but because He loves you. Not conditionally, but absolutely, eternally, unchangeably. Close your eyes now and let these words sink deeper than your conscious mind, deeper into the place where fear lives, where doubt whispers, where loneliness aches. I am with you, declares the Lord. He's saying it to you right now, in this moment. He's saying it over your past, over all the times you felt alone. He's saying it over your present, over this very breath, and He's saying it over your future, over every unknown day that lies ahead. You are not rebuilding alone. You are not walking this path alone. You are not facing your struggles alone. He is with you, and that changes everything. That makes the impossible possible. That makes the overwhelming manageable. That makes the terrifying bearable, because you're not depending on your own limited resources anymore. You're drawing from His unlimited supply. You're not carrying the weight alone. He's carrying it with you, and most of it for you. Rest in this promise tonight, beloved. Let it be the soft pillow your weary soul rests on. Let it be the gentle arms that hold you as you drift toward sleep. Let it be the whisper that quiets every fear and doubt. I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. Now and always and forever. You are mine, and I will never leave you. Never. And now, my dear child, as sleep draws so very close, as your body grows heavy and your thoughts begin to drift like leaves on a gentle stream, let me share with you what happened next, because what comes after God's promise of presence is so beautiful, so full of hope, that I want you to carry it with you into your dreams and wake up with it tomorrow morning. Listen to these words. And the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people. And they came and worked on the house of the Lord of hosts, their God, on the 24th day of the month, in the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king. They came and worked. After hearing God's word, after obeying His voice, after receiving His promise of presence, they came and they worked. Not someday, not eventually, not when they felt more ready. They came. 23 days after Haggai first spoke to them, they began. And notice what the text says first. Beloved. Notice what made it possible for them to finally start after 16 years of delay. The Lord stirred up the Spirit. God didn't just tell them what to do and leave them to figure out how to find the energy. He didn't just promise to be with them and expect them to muster up motivation on their own. He stirred up their spirit. He awakened something in them. He gave them the desire, the energy, the will to begin. Even their obedience, even their ability to work, was a gift from Him. This is such comfort, dear one, because maybe you're lying there thinking, I want to rebuild. I want to make God the center of my life again. But I'm so tired. I don't have the energy. I don't know where to find the motivation to start. And God is whispering to you tonight, I will stir up your spirit. I will give you what you need. I will awaken the desire in you. I will provide the energy. You don't have to manufacture it yourself. The rebuilding begins not with your strength, but with His stirring. Not with your willpower, but with His gentle awakening of something in you that's been asleep for too long. All you have to do is be willing, be open, be available for Him to work in you, and He will do what you cannot do for yourself. He will stir up your spirit. He will give you the strength to take that first step, and then the next, and then the next. And look at who He stirred. Beloved. Not just the leaders, not just the priests, but all the remnant of the people. Everyone. The whole community. God didn't single out the strongest or the most spiritual or the ones who had it all together. He stirred up everyone who was willing, everyone who had said yes, everyone who was part of the remnant, which means everyone who had survived, everyone who was still there, still standing, still breathing. You're part of that remnant. Dear child, you're one of the ones who has survived. Life has been hard. You've been through things that almost broke you. You've been tired for so long, but you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still listening for God's voice. And that makes you exactly the kind of person He loves to work with. Exactly the kind of person whose spirit He can stir. Exactly the kind of person who can be part of the rebuilding. They came and worked on the house of the Lord of hosts, their God. Notice it's called the house of the Lord, but also their God. It's His house, but He's their God. The relationship is personal, intimate, covenantal. They're not rebuilding a building for some distant deity. They're rebuilding a place of connection with the God who is theirs, who belongs to them as much as they belong to Him, who has promised to be with them, who has stirred up their spirits. And when they worked, beloved, when they finally began after all those years of delay, do you know what they were really doing? They were saying yes to relationship. They were saying yes to having God at the center. They were saying yes to being filled instead of empty, satisfied instead of hungry, connected instead of isolated. Every stone they laid, every beam they lifted, it was an act of love, an act of faith, an act of coming home. That's what rebuilding looks like for you, too, dear one. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic changes. It's about small, daily choices to make space for God. It's about saying yes to a few minutes of prayer in the morning instead of immediately scrolling through your phone. It's about pausing in the middle of your busy day to remember He's with you, to whisper thank you, to ask for help. It's about reading a verse of Scripture before bed and letting it settle in your heart. It's about showing up again and again in small ways, letting God stir your spirit, letting Him give you the strength you don't have on your own. And here's the beautiful thing, beloved. When you begin, when you take that first small step, when you start rebuilding the temple in your soul, you're not doing it alone. Just like the people in Haggai's time, you're part of a community. There are others all around you, seen and unseen, who are also rebuilding, also trying to make God the center again, also learning what it means to live from that place of connection instead of trying to sustain themselves from their own empty resources. God is stirring up spirits all over the world. Beloved, He's calling His people back to the center. He's reminding them that the temple matters, that relationship with Him matters, that you can't build a lasting life on the edges while the middle stays empty. And you're part of that great movement, that great awakening, that great return. Your small yes matters. Your tired obedience matters. Your willingness to begin, even when you don't feel ready, it matters more than you know. Let your eyes close now, if they haven't already. Feel yourself sinking into sleep, held by the God who stirs your spirit, who walks with you, who promises never to leave you. Tomorrow is a new day, a day when you can come and work on the house, on the temple of your soul, not because you have to, not because God is demanding it, but because you get to, because you're invited, because the God of the universe wants to dwell at the center of your life, wants to fill you with His presence, wants to be your source and your strength and your satisfaction. The work doesn't have to be perfect, beloved. It just has to be willing. God will do the rest. He'll stir your spirit. He'll give you strength. He'll be with you every step of the way. And slowly, gently, stone by stone and day by day, the temple will be rebuilt. The center will be restored. And you'll discover what you've been longing for all along, a life that flows from connection with God, a life that's filled instead of empty, a life that finally feels like coming home. Rest now in that promise. Dear child, rest knowing that the rebuilding has already begun, that God has already started stirring your spirit, that tomorrow brings new mercies and fresh strength and another opportunity to say yes to the one who is always saying yes to you. You are loved. You are with Him, and He is with you. And together, you will rebuild what has been in ruins for too long. Sleep well, beloved. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. The Lord your God is with you, and that changes everything. Amen. Chapter 4. When we become disappointed with past glory. About a month has passed since the people began rebuilding the temple. They've been working hard, these tired remnant people, laying stones and clearing rubble. And then God speaks again through Haggai, and His words are so gentle, so understanding of human hearts. Listen to what He says. In the 7th month, on the 21st day of the month, the word of the Lord came by the hand of Haggai the prophet. Speak now to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and to all the remnant of the people, and say, Who is left among you who saw this house in its former glory? How do you see it now? Is it not as nothing in your eyes? Can you hear the tenderness in that question? Beloved, God isn't ignoring their disappointment. He's naming it. He's bringing it into the light. Who remembers? He asks. Who among you is old enough to remember Solomon's temple, that magnificent structure of gold and cedar and precious stones? Who remembers the glory days, when everything was whole and beautiful and seemingly permanent? And then, even more gently, how do you see it now? Look at what you're building. Look at these simple stones, this modest structure. Compared to what was, compared to what you remember, is it not as nothing in your eyes? Let me pause here with you, dear one, because I know this touches something in your heart. Maybe you remember a time when your faith felt stronger, when your relationship with God felt more vibrant, when everything seemed brighter and more alive. Maybe you remember when prayer came easily, when you felt God's presence so clearly, when your spiritual life felt rich and full. And now, as you're trying to rebuild, as you're taking those small steps back toward God, what you have feels so small compared to what you remember, so inadequate, so disappointing. Or maybe it's not just your spiritual life. Maybe you remember when your body was stronger, when you had more energy, when you could do so much more than you can now. Maybe you remember a time when your mind was sharper, your emotions more stable, your life more together. And looking at where you are now, it feels like nothing. Like you're building something so small, so pitiful compared to the glory of what was. The people standing there among the stones, some of them were old enough to remember. They had seen Solomon's temple in all its splendor before the Babylonians destroyed it. And now, working on this new temple with their limited resources, their tired hands, their modest materials, they couldn't help but compare. They couldn't help but feel the ache of disappointment. What they were building looked like nothing compared to what they remembered. And God doesn't scold them for feeling this way, beloved. He doesn't say, "Stop being ungrateful. Stop looking back. Be content with what you have." No, He acknowledges their feelings. He names them. He brings the disappointment into the open where it can be held gently, tenderly, with understanding. This is such a gift, dear child, because so often we think we have to hide our disappointments from God, especially our disappointments about spiritual things. We think we should be grateful for whatever small progress we're making, and we feel guilty for wishing it were more, for remembering when it was more, for feeling sad that what we have now doesn't measure up to what we once had. But God makes space for that sadness tonight. He asks the question that brings it into the light. Is it not as nothing in your eyes? He knows. He understands. He sees your disappointment, and He's not angry about it. He's compassionate toward it, because He knows that comparing present rebuilding to past glory is one of the hardest things about starting over. Take another slow breath. Beloved, let your body sink deeper into rest. If you've been carrying disappointment about your spiritual journey, about how small your current efforts feel compared to what you remember, you can lay that down tonight. God sees it. He understands. And He's about to say something that will change how you see everything you're building. But first, He lets you sit with the sadness for a moment. He lets you name it, feel it, acknowledge that yes, this is hard. Yes, it doesn't look like what you remember. Yes, there's grief in that, and that grief is real, and it's valid, and God makes room for it. He doesn't rush past your feelings to get to the encouragement. He sits with you in the disappointment first, the way a loving father sits with a crying child, not trying to fix it immediately, just being present, just holding space for the sadness. If you've been feeling discouraged because your progress feels so small, if you've been looking at other people's faith and feeling like yours is inadequate, if you've been comparing your current spiritual state to your past and finding the present wanting, let yourself feel God's compassion for that tonight. He's not disappointed in you for feeling disappointed. He understands. He made you human, with hearts that remember and compare and sometimes ache with longing for what was. The old men standing among the stones, some of them were weeping as they worked. The Bible tells us elsewhere, They remembered the glory, and their hearts broke at the difference. And God didn't tell them to stop crying. He didn't shame them for their tears. He simply acknowledged what was true. This new temple, to eyes that had seen the old one, looked like nothing. But beloved, and this is so important, looking like nothing to our eyes doesn't mean it is nothing to God's eyes. And that's what He's about to tell them. That's the comfort He's about to offer. But He starts by making space for their sadness, by naming their disappointment, by letting them know that He sees what they're feeling and He understands. Rest in that understanding tonight, dear child. Rest in knowing that God doesn't expect you to be endlessly positive about your rebuilding process. He knows it's hard. He knows it sometimes feels inadequate. He knows you remember better days and wonder if you'll ever feel that alive again. And He holds all of that sadness with such tender care, making space for your honest feelings, never shaming you for them, always meeting you exactly where you are with compassion that never runs out. Now, beloved, as your breathing grows softer and the peace of night settles more deeply around you, let me share with you what God says next. Because after acknowledging the disappointment, after making space for the sadness, He speaks words that can lift your weary heart and give you courage to keep going even when what you're building feels small. Listen to these beautiful words. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Be strong, O Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest. Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord. Work, for I am with you, declares the Lord of hosts. Yet now, after the disappointment has been named, after the smallness has been acknowledged, after the sadness has been held, God says, yet now, not forget what you're feeling, not pretend it doesn't matter, but even with all those feelings, even knowing what you know, even seeing what you see, yet now, be strong. Be strong. He says it 3 times. Beloved. Once to the governor, once to the priest, once to all the people. Be strong. Not because you feel strong, not because circumstances have changed, not because the temple suddenly looks more impressive. Be strong simply because I am telling you to be strong, and I will give you what I'm asking you to have. This isn't God being harsh or demanding. This is God being encouraging, like a coach on the sidelines calling to a tired athlete, "You can do this. Keep going. I believe in you. Be strong." It's an invitation into strength that isn't your own, into courage that comes from knowing you're not alone, into the ability to keep building even when what you're building looks small. And then He says, work. Keep going. Don't stop just because it looks like nothing. Don't give up just because it doesn't match your memories of former glory. Don't let disappointment paralyze you. Work. Put one stone on another. Take one small step. Do the next right thing. Keep moving forward even when you can't see the finished result, even when you're not sure it will be worth it, even when your hands are tired and your heart is heavy. But notice, dear child, notice why He can ask them to be strong and work. Notice the reason He gives. the foundation he offers for this courage. For I am with you, declares the Lord of hosts. There it is again, that precious promise we heard in the last chapter. I am with you, not I will be with you if you're strong enough. Not I am with you when the temple looks impressive. Just I am with you right now, in this moment, in your weakness, in your disappointment, in the smallness of what you're building. I am with you. The Lord of hosts, the God of heaven's armies, the one who has all power, all resources, all strength. He is with you. And if he is with you, then being strong isn't about mustering up your own courage. It's about leaning into his. It's about borrowing his strength when yours runs out. It's about letting him be strong in your weakness, letting his presence be the thing that keeps you going when everything in you wants to give up. Let your shoulders drop as you hear this. Beloved, let the tension release. You don't have to be strong on your own. You don't have to find the courage deep within yourself to keep building when everything looks small and disappointing. You just have to remember that he is with you, and his strength is more than enough for both of you. Maybe what you're rebuilding in your spiritual life does look small right now. Maybe your prayer life is just a few minutes in the morning instead of the rich hours you used to spend. Maybe your faith feels shaky instead of solid. Maybe your progress feels slow and your growth feels minimal. But God is saying to you tonight what he said to those discouraged builders. Yet now, be strong. Work. Keep going. Don't let the smallness stop you. Don't let disappointment paralyze you. Because I am with you. And that changes everything. The temple they were building might have looked like nothing to eyes that remembered Solomon's glory. But it wasn't nothing to God. Every stone they laid mattered. Every day they showed up mattered. Every small act of obedience, every tired effort, every moment they chose to keep working, even when they didn't feel like it. All of it mattered to him, because what he values isn't the impressiveness of what we build. It's the heart that keeps showing up, keeps trying, keeps saying yes, even when yes looks small. You know what's beautiful about this command? Beloved, God doesn't say, "Be strong and make this temple as glorious as the old one." He doesn't say, "Work until you've achieved what you remember from the past." He just says, "Be strong and work. Keep building. Keep moving forward. Let the temple be what it's going to be, stone by small stone, and trust that I know what I'm doing, that I have plans for this that you can't see yet." This is such freedom, dear child. You don't have to recreate past glory. You don't have to measure up to your memories or anyone else's expectations. You just have to be faithful with what's in front of you right now. You just have to keep showing up. Keep taking small steps. Keep saying yes to God even when your yes feels inadequate. That's all he's asking. Be strong in my strength, not your own. Work with my presence, not your own power, and trust that what looks small to you matters more than you know. Take a gentle breath now. Feel the kindness in these words. God isn't disappointed that what you're building looks small. He's not comparing your current progress to your past glory and finding you lacking. He's simply saying, keep going. I'm with you. That's enough. That's all you need. My presence with you in the small things is worth more than all the impressive things you could build without me. Rest in that truth tonight, beloved. Rest knowing that being strong doesn't mean feeling confident. It means choosing to keep going even when you don't. Rest knowing that working doesn't mean achieving great things. It means being faithful with small things. And rest knowing that the God of heaven's armies is with you in your smallness, in your disappointment, in your tired efforts to rebuild what's been in ruins. He sees, He cares, and He calls it enough. And now, my precious child, as sleep draws so near, as your eyelids grow heavy and your thoughts begin to drift like clouds across a gentle sky, let me share with you the most comforting truth of all. After telling them to be strong, after encouraging them to work, God gives them the reason why they can do these things. He reminds them of who He is and what He has promised. Listen to these healing words. According to the covenant that I made with you when you came out of Egypt, my Spirit remains in your midst. Fear not. My Spirit remains in your midst. Not my Spirit will come if you build an impressive temple. Not my Spirit might show up if you do this right. But my Spirit remains. Present tense. Continuous, ongoing, already here, already with you, already in your midst, right now, in the middle of your small efforts and your disappointments and your tired work. God is reminding them of the covenant. Beloved, the covenant He made when He brought them out of Egypt, when He rescued them from slavery, when He led them through the wilderness with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. He's saying, remember that promise. Remember when I said I would be your God and you would be my people. That promise still stands. It hasn't changed because the temple looks small. It hasn't been revoked because you're disappointed. My Spirit remains with you, just as I promised. This is so important for you to hear tonight, dear child, because maybe you've been thinking that God's presence in your life depends on how impressive your spiritual growth looks, on how much progress you've made, on whether what you're building measures up to what others are building, or what you remember from the past. But that's not how it works. God's presence isn't earned by your achievements. It's given by His covenant, by His promise, by His faithful love that doesn't waver based on how well you perform. My Spirit remains in your midst. Even when what you're building looks like nothing, even when you're disappointed with your progress, even when you feel weak and small and inadequate, His Spirit remains. Not because you deserve it, but because He promised it. Not because you've achieved enough, but because He is faithful even when we are faithless. Not because the temple looks glorious, but because His love is glorious and it doesn't change based on external circumstances. Let this sink deep into your weary heart, beloved. The presence of God with you is not dependent on the size or impressiveness of what you're building in your spiritual life. It's not based on whether your faith looks strong to others or whether your growth is noticeable. His Spirit remains in your midst because of who He is, not because of who you are or what you've accomplished. And that means you can rest. You can breathe. You can stop striving to be impressive and just be present with the God who is already present with you. And then, oh then, He says the most beautiful words, "Fear not." Don't be afraid. Not afraid that you're failing. Not afraid that what you're building isn't enough. Not afraid that God will abandon you because your progress is slow. Not afraid that you've disappointed Him, or that He's comparing you to others, or to your past, and finding you lacking. Fear not, because my Spirit remains in your midst, and that's all you need. That's everything you need. Fear not when the temple looks small. Fear not when your spiritual life feels weak. Fear not when others seem to have more or be further along or look more impressive. Fear not, because I am with you, and my presence is the thing that matters most, the thing that changes everything, the thing that makes even small efforts sacred and meaningful and pleasing to me. You know what this means, beloved. It means that right now, in this very moment, as you lie here tired and small and feeling like whatever you're offering God is inadequate, His Spirit is with you, not far off, not disappointed, not waiting for you to get better before He draws close. He is here, in your midst, in your weakness, in your disappointment, in your smallest efforts. His Spirit remains. And if His Spirit remains with you, then you have everything you need. You have strength when you're weak. You have courage when you're afraid. You have hope when you're discouraged. You have love when you feel unlovable. You have presence when you feel alone. Because it's not about what you bring to the table. It's about what He brings. And He brings Himself, fully, completely, faithfully, into your midst. Close your eyes now, dear child. Let the darkness hold you gently. Feel yourself surrounded not just by night, but by the Spirit of God, who remains in your midst, not hovering far above, not watching from a distance, but right here, as close as your breath, as present as your heartbeat, as faithful as the dawn. The temple might look small. Your progress might feel inadequate. Your spiritual life might seem like nothing compared to what it was or what you wish it could be. But none of that changes this truth. His Spirit remains in your midst. And that means you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not measured by the size of what you build, but by the faithfulness of the God who builds with you. Tomorrow, when you wake, you might still feel weak. You might still see the smallness of what you're building. You might still carry some disappointment about how far you have to go. But you will wake with this truth. His Spirit remains in your midst. And that truth is enough to help you be strong, enough to help you work, enough to help you take one more small step, lay one more small stone, say one more small yes to the God who never stops saying yes to you. Sleep now in that assurance, beloved. Sleep deeply, peacefully, held by the covenant-keeping God whose Spirit remains in your midst. Not because you've earned it, not because you deserve it, but because He promised, and He always keeps His promises. You are loved. You are with Him, and He is with you. And that changes everything. makes everything sacred, makes even your smallest efforts into something beautiful in His eyes. Rest now, precious child. Rest knowing that the God of heaven's armies considers you worth being with, considers your small rebuilding worth His presence, considers you precious enough that His Spirit remains in your midst, now and always and forever. You are not building alone. You never have been, and you never will be. His Spirit remains, and because of that, you can fear not. Amen. Chapter 5. Ultimate glory and peace given. Let the air fill your lungs slowly, like a gentle wave washing onto shore. Feel your body sinking deeper into rest, held by something greater than yourself. Tonight, we're going to hear God speak about things that might sound big and overwhelming at first. But I promise you, by the time we're finished, you'll hear them as the most comforting words, full of hope and promise for your weary heart. The Lord continues speaking through Haggai, and His words reach beyond the small temple being built in Jerusalem to something vast and cosmic. Listen to what He says. For thus says the Lord of hosts, yet once more, in a little while, I will shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, so that the treasures of all nations shall come in, and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord of hosts. I will shake the heavens and the earth. These are big words, beloved. Shaking words. Words that speak of God moving, acting, doing something so powerful that nothing remains unchanged. And I know that might sound frightening at first. Shaking sounds unstable, unsafe. Like everything you've been holding on to might fall apart. But let me help you hear these words differently tonight. Let me help you understand what this shaking really means. Think about a tree. Dear one, a beautiful tree with deep roots and strong branches. And imagine that over time, dead leaves have accumulated in those branches, brown and brittle, taking up space but giving no life. Birds have built nests with twigs that are rotting. Vines have wrapped around the trunk, slowly choking it. The tree needs help, but it can't shake itself clean. It needs wind. It needs a storm. Not to destroy it, but to clear away what doesn't belong, what's dead, what's keeping it from being fully alive. That's what God's shaking is like. Beloved, it's not destruction for destruction's sake. It's clearing away. It's removing what's false, what's temporary, what's been pretending to be permanent, but isn't. God shakes the heavens and the earth not because He's angry, but because He loves us too much to let us keep building our lives on things that cannot hold us, on securities that aren't secure, on foundations that will crumble eventually anyway. He shakes all nations, every kingdom, every power, every system that humanity has built and declared permanent. And why not to terrify us, but to reveal what's actually unshakable? Because here's the beautiful truth. Dear child, when everything that can be shaken is shaken, what remains is what was always meant to last. What remains is what's truly real, truly solid, truly able to hold you. Let your breathing slow as you hear this. If you've been feeling like your life is shaking, like things you thought were stable are falling apart, like the ground beneath your feet isn't as solid as you believed, maybe, just maybe, God is doing this work of shaking in your life, not to harm you, but to help you, not to take away what you need, but to reveal what you truly need, not to leave you with nothing, but to show you what can actually hold you when everything else falls away. The shaking reveals what's real. It shows you which relationships are built on genuine love and which are just convenient. It shows you which dreams are from God and which are from your own striving. It shows you what parts of your faith are truly yours and what parts you just inherited or performed. And yes, that revelation can feel scary. It can feel like loss. But it's actually mercy, beloved. It's God loving you enough to clear away the dead leaves so the tree can breathe again, so new life can grow. I will shake all nations, so that the treasures of all nations shall come in. After the shaking comes the gathering. After what's false is removed, what's true is revealed. The treasures, the real wealth, the things that actually matter, they all come flowing in, not because they're new, but because the shaking has cleared the path for them to reach where they were always meant to be. And where are they meant to be? I will fill this house with glory. God says, this small temple that looked like nothing, this modest structure that disappointed those who remembered the past, God says He will fill it with glory. Not might fill it, not could fill it if they do everything right. Will fill it. It's a promise. A certainty, a guarantee from the one who always keeps His word. The glory doesn't come from the impressiveness of the building, beloved. It comes from God choosing to dwell there. The glory isn't in the gold and cedar and precious stones. The glory is His presence, and He can fill a small temple just as easily as a large one. He can fill your small, tired efforts to rebuild your spiritual life just as powerfully as He fills the grandest cathedral. Because His glory isn't measured by external dimensions. It's measured by His choice to be present, to dwell, to fill. So if your life is shaking right now, if things feel unstable and uncertain, if what you thought was solid is proving to be temporary, take heart. God is at work. He's clearing away what cannot last, so He can fill you with what will last forever. He's removing the false securities so you'll finally discover the one true security, Him. He's shaking not to destroy you, but to prepare you to be filled with His glory, His presence, His unshakable love. Rest in that truth tonight, dear child. Let the shaking be what it needs to be. Let God do His work of clearing and revealing, and trust that when the shaking is done, what remains will be more solid, more real, more glorious than anything you had before, because what remains will be Him. And He is unshakable. He is permanent. He is the foundation that never fails, the treasure that never fades, the glory that fills even the smallest temple when He chooses to make it His home. Part 5.2. The latter glory of this house shall be greater than the former. Now, beloved, as your body grows heavier with the sweet weight of coming sleep. As your thoughts begin to slow like a river finding its peaceful pool, let me share with you the promise that changes everything. The promise that takes all the disappointment about small beginnings and transforms it into hope. Listen to these beautiful words that God speaks. "The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. The latter glory of this house shall be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts." The silver is mine, and the gold is mine. Before God even talks about glory, He reminds them of this truth. All wealth belongs to Him. All resources are His. The reason the new temple looks less impressive than Solomon's temple isn't because God ran out of gold or silver. He owns it all. He could make this temple just as physically magnificent as the last one if that's what mattered to Him. But that's not what He's interested in. That's not where true glory is found. And then He says something that should make our hearts leap with joy. The latter glory of this house shall be greater than the former. Greater, not in size, not in external splendor, but in true glory, in what really matters, in the depth of God's presence, in the richness of His dwelling among His people, in the fullness of what He's about to do. Let me help you understand what this means, dear child, because it's so important. The people were comparing their small temple to Solomon's magnificent one and feeling discouraged. But God was looking at something they couldn't see yet. He was looking forward to a day when He would come to this very temple, not as a cloud of glory that appeared occasionally, but as a person, as Jesus, as Emmanuel, God with us. Years after this temple was completed, a baby would be brought to it for dedication. An old man named Simeon would hold that baby and declare, "My eyes have seen your salvation." That baby, that man, that Jesus. He would walk through these temple courts, teaching and healing. He would overturn tables and declare, "My Father's house shall be called a house of prayer." The glory of God wouldn't just visit this temple. The glory of God would walk through it in human flesh. That's why the latter glory would be greater than the former. Beloved, not because the building was bigger or more beautiful, but because God's presence would be more intimate, more accessible, more personal than ever before. Solomon's temple had gold and cedar, but it kept people at a distance. This modest temple would hold God Himself, walking among His people, touching them, healing them, teaching them, loving them face to face. And do you know what this means for you tonight, dear child? It means that the glory you're building in your spiritual life now might look small compared to what you remember from the past. But God is doing something deeper, something richer, something more intimate than you had before. The latter glory in your life will be greater than the former, not because it looks more impressive to others, but because it's built on deeper intimacy with God, on more honest relationship, on more authentic presence. Maybe you remember a time when your faith felt big and exciting, when you were doing all the right things and it looked good from the outside. But perhaps it wasn't as deep as it felt. Perhaps there were parts of you that stayed hidden, parts of your heart that never really opened to God. And now, In this season of rebuilding, in this time that feels small and humble, you're learning what it means to really be with God, not performing for Him, but resting with Him, not impressing Him, but being loved by Him, not building something magnificent for others to admire, but creating space for Him to dwell. That's the latter glory, beloved. It's deeper intimacy. It's more authentic presence. It's less about what others see and more about what's real between you and God. And it is greater, so much greater, than any external glory that lacks that depth of connection. The glory God values isn't measured in size or impressiveness. It's measured in presence, in closeness, in the quality of dwelling together. And when you make space for Him in your life, even in small ways, even in ways that don't look impressive to anyone else, He fills that space with His presence. And His presence is glory. His presence is what makes anything sacred, anything beautiful, anything worth building. So let go tonight of comparing your current spiritual journey to your past. Let go of measuring yourself against others. Let go of feeling like what you're offering God is too small to matter, because God is saying to you what He said to those discouraged builders: the latter glory shall be greater than the former. What I'm doing in you now, in this season of humble rebuilding, in this time that feels small, it's going to be richer and deeper and more glorious than anything that came before. Not because it looks better, but because it's more real, more intimate, more filled with my actual presence. Take a deep breath and let that truth settle in your heart. Beloved, you're not building something less than what you had. You're building something more, something that will be filled with God's presence in ways you couldn't have imagined, something that will satisfy your soul more deeply than any external glory ever could. The latter glory will be greater, not someday far off, but starting now, starting tonight, starting in this very moment when you open your heart to Him and let Him fill the temple of your soul with His loving presence. Part 5.3. In this place I will give peace. And now, my precious child, as we come to the sweetest promise of all, as your eyes can barely stay open and sleep is just a breath away, let me whisper to you the words that can carry you safely through this night and into all your tomorrows. After speaking of shaking and glory, after promising that the latter would be greater than the former, God speaks one final promise, one gift, one treasure that makes everything else complete. Listen to these healing words. And in this place I will give peace, declares the Lord of hosts. In this place, in this very temple that looked like nothing, in this modest structure that disappointed those who remembered the past, in this place that seemed too small, too simple, too inadequate, in this place I will give peace. Not somewhere else, not in some grander temple, not when everything looks better or more impressive. Here, now, in this place, in your current circumstances, in your small rebuilding efforts, in the midst of your disappointments and your weariness, in this place, right where you are, I will give peace. And notice, beloved, Notice the gentle beauty of this word. I will give. Not, you must earn. Not, you must achieve. Not, you must become good enough to receive. I will give. Peace is a gift. Not a reward for your efforts, but a present from a loving father to his tired child. Not something you work for, but something you receive. Not based on your performance, but based on his generous love. Peace. Oh, what a gift this is, dear child. Not just the absence of conflict, not just the quiet of a calm moment, but the deep, soul-level peace that comes from knowing you are held, you are loved. You are safe in God's hands no matter what storms are raging around you. The peace that surpasses understanding, the peace that guards your heart and mind, the peace that flows like a river through your soul when you're connected to the source of all peace. This is the culmination of everything Haggai has been saying, beloved. This is what all the rebuilding is for. Not to create something impressive, but to create space for God's presence. And where God's presence dwells, there peace flows. Not because circumstances are perfect, but because He is there. Not because everything is resolved, but because He is enough. Not because life stops being hard, but because He walks through the hard things with you. And His presence brings peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. Let your whole body relax now as you hear this promise spoken over you. In this place, in your life exactly as it is right now, in your heart with all its weariness and questions, in your soul with all its longings and disappointments, in this place, God will give peace. He's already giving it. He's already pouring it out like oil on troubled waters, like balm on wounded hearts, like gentle rain on parched ground. You don't have to strive for this peace, dear one. You don't have to achieve it or earn it or become worthy of it. You just have to receive it. Just open your hands, open your heart, and let Him give what He's been longing to give all along. Peace. Deep, lasting, unshakable peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances, but flows from His unchanging presence with you. This is why He wanted the temple rebuilt. Beloved, not for His sake, but for yours. So there would be a place where you could come and meet Him, where you could experience His presence, where you could receive His peace. And that temple isn't just a building in ancient Jerusalem. It's the temple of your own soul, the sacred space where you and God meet, where His Spirit dwells, where His peace flows. When you rebuild that temple, when you make space for Him at the center of your life again, when you prioritize that relationship over all the other things clamoring for your attention, this is what you receive peace. Not as something you have to maintain on your own, but as something He continuously gives. A gift that keeps flowing, a spring that never runs dry, a river of peace that refreshes your soul day after day after day. And this peace, beloved, this is the peace you can sleep in tonight. This is the peace that can hold you through whatever tomorrow brings. This is the peace that makes everything else bearable, that gives you strength when you're weak, that calms your anxious thoughts and soothes your restless heart. This peace is not fragile or temporary. It's solid and eternal because it comes from the God who never changes, who never leaves, who never stops loving you. Close your eyes now and receive this gift. Feel it settling over you like a soft blanket, like gentle arms holding you, like the warm glow of a fire on a cold night. In this place, right here, right now, God is giving you peace. Not someday. Not when you get better or stronger or more spiritual. Now. Tonight. In this very moment. Let the peace of God guard your heart and mind as you drift into sleep. Let it carry you through the night and wake with you in the morning. Let it be the steady ground beneath your feet, the quiet certainty in your soul that no matter what shakes, no matter what changes, you are held by a love that never fails and a God who promises. In this place, in your place, in the small temple you're rebuilding in your soul, I will give peace. And that peace, dear child, that is everything. That is the glory that matters most. That is the treasure worth more than all the gold and silver in the world. That is what makes the latter glory greater than the former, not in external splendor, but in the depth of God's presence dwelling with you, filling you, surrounding you with peace that flows from His heart to yours. Sleep now in that peace, beloved. Sleep deeply, safely, held by the God who shakes what needs to be shaken, who fills what seems empty with His glory, and who gives peace that nothing can disturb. You are loved. You are held. You are filled with His presence. And in this place, in your place, there is peace. Deep, lasting, beautiful peace. Rest now, precious child. Rest in the promise. Rest in the presence. Rest in the peace that is yours, not because you earned it, but because it's the gift of a God who loves you more than you will ever know. The latter glory is here. The peace is here. He is here, and that changes everything. Amen. Chapter 6. From Impurity to Blessing and Covenant. We've journeyed far together through this little book of Haggai, and tonight we arrive at the place where everything comes together, where God reveals the heart behind all His words, where blessing breaks through like dawn after a long night. The Lord speaks one more time through Haggai, and He does something unusual. He asks the priests a question, a teaching moment wrapped in gentleness. Listen to this. Thus says the Lord of hosts, ask the priests about the law. If someone carries holy meat in the fold of his garment and touches with his fold bread or stew or wine or oil or any kind of food, does it become holy? The priests answered and said, No. Then Haggai said, If someone who is unclean by contact with a dead body touches any of these, does it become unclean? The priests answered and said, It does become unclean. This might sound like a strange lesson for our final night together, beloved, but stay with me. There's such tender wisdom hidden here. God is teaching them something about how holiness and defilement work, about what spreads easily and what doesn't, about the human heart and how it needs more than just external religion to truly be clean. The holy meat doesn't make other food holy just by touching it. But something unclean does make other things unclean by contact. This is a picture of something true about the human heart. Dear one, it's easier to be pulled down than lifted up. It's easier to be contaminated than purified. It's easier to go through the motions of religion while keeping your heart at a distance than it is to truly be transformed by God's presence. And then God applies this lesson directly to them. So is it with this people and with this nation before me, declares the Lord, and so with every work of their hands. And what they offer there is unclean. These are strong words, but hear them gently, beloved. God isn't being harsh. He's being honest. He's saying, you've been going through the motions. You've been offering sacrifices and performing rituals, but your hearts haven't been in it. And all the external religion in the world can't make you clean if your heart isn't truly turned toward me. This is such an important truth for you tonight, dear child. Because maybe you've been trying to fix your spiritual life from the outside in. Maybe you've been thinking that if you just do the right things, read your Bible, say your prayers, go to church, then somehow you'll feel closer to God. Somehow you'll be holy. But that's not how it works. External actions, even good ones, can't make your heart clean if your heart isn't actually engaged, isn't actually present, isn't actually opening itself to God. Let me say this with all the tenderness in my heart. God doesn't want your performance. He wants your presence. He doesn't want your perfect rituals. He wants your real heart. He's not impressed by how much you do if you're doing it all with a heart that's far away. That's just going through the motions. That's trying to look holy without actually being transformed. But here's the beautiful thing. Beloved, God isn't pointing this out to condemn you. He's pointing it out to invite you into something real. He's saying, stop trying to make yourself holy through external actions. Stop thinking that doing the right things will fix what's broken inside. Come to me with your actual heart, your real self, all your mess and brokenness and impurity, and let me do the work of making you clean from the inside out. This is the gospel, dear child. This is grace. You can't clean yourself up. Your best efforts at being holy don't make you holy. But when you come to God with an honest, open heart, when you stop performing and start being real with Him, when you let Him see all the unclean places and trust Him to do the purifying work, that's when real transformation begins. Not from your effort, but from His love. Not from your striving, but from His grace. Take a slow breath now. Let go of any pressure you've been feeling to perform for God, to look holy, to have it all together. He sees through the performance anyway. Beloved, He knows when you're just going through the motions. And He's not impressed by that, but He's also not angry. He's just gently inviting you to stop pretending and start being real, to bring Him your actual heart, your actual struggles, your actual imperfections, and let Him love you there. Let Him cleanse you there. Let Him transform you from the inside out. The priests in Haggai's time were offering sacrifices, but their hearts were far from God. They were doing religious things, but without real relationship. And God was saying, all of that is unclean, not because sacrifices are wrong, but because they're being done without heart, without connection, without genuine turning toward me. Don't let that be your story, dear one. Don't spend your life going through religious motions while keeping your heart at a safe distance. God wants more for you than that. He wants real intimacy, real presence, real transformation that starts in your heart and works its way out, not external actions that never quite reach your heart at all. Rest in this tonight, beloved. Rest knowing that God sees through the performance to the heart beneath, and what He's looking for isn't perfection. It's honesty. It's openness. It's you being real with Him so He can be real with you, so His love can reach the places that need healing, so His grace can do the work that your efforts never could. Part 6.2. From this day on I will bless you. And now, my precious child, as we move deeper into this final chapter, as your breathing grows softer and sleep draws nearer, let me share with you the most beautiful turning point in the entire Book of Haggai. After all the correction, after all the invitation to look at their hearts, God speaks words that should make us weep with gratitude and relief. Listen to these healing words. Now then, consider from this day onward. Before stone was placed upon stone in the temple of the Lord, how did you fare when one came to a heap of 20 measures? There were but 10. When one came to the wine vat to draw 50 measures, there were but 20. I struck you and all the products of your toil with blight, and with mildew, and with hail. Yet you did not turn to me, declares the Lord. Consider from this day onward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, since the day that the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid. Consider, is the seed yet in the barn? Indeed, the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree have yielded nothing. But from this day on, I will bless you. From this day on, I will bless you. Oh, beloved, do you hear what God is saying? He's marking a turning point, a before and after, a line in the sand that changes everything. Before, when their hearts were far and they were just going through motions, nothing worked. The harvest was small. The wine was insufficient. Everything they touched seemed to wither. Not because God was being cruel, but because they were trying to live disconnected from the source of life, and that just doesn't work. But now that they've turned back, now that they've started rebuilding the temple, now that they're making space for God at the center again, everything changes. From this day on, I will bless you. Not from the day the temple is completed, not from the day everything is perfect. From this day on, from the day you turned, from the day you started making space, from the day you chose to prioritize relationship with me over everything else. This is such hope for you tonight, dear child, because maybe you've been feeling like you have to get everything right before God will bless you. Maybe you've been thinking that you need to complete the rebuilding, finish the transformation, become spiritually mature before His favor will rest on you. But that's not what God says. He says, From this day on, from the day you turn, from the moment you start making space, from the beginning of your yes, not the end of your journey, I will bless you. The blessing doesn't wait for completion, beloved. It begins with turning. It starts the moment you choose God, the moment you say yes to rebuilding the temple in your heart, the moment you decide to make Him the center again. From that day on, even while the work is just beginning, even while there's so much left to do, even while you're still figuring it all out, the blessing flows. Notice what God says, "Is the seed yet in the barn?" The agricultural year is just starting. The seed hasn't even been planted yet. There's no harvest to see, no fruit to measure, no results to point to. But God says, "From this day on, I will bless you." The blessing comes before the evidence. The favor comes before the fruit. God blesses the turning itself, the obedience itself, the choice to make Him central again, even before you can see what that choice will produce. This is grace, dear child. This is the heart of a God who doesn't wait for you to prove yourself before He loves you. He doesn't wait for you to produce fruit before He blesses you. He blesses the seed while it's still in the barn. He blesses the foundation while the walls are just beginning. He blesses your small yes, your tired obedience, your stumbling steps back toward Him, and He declares over it all, from this day on, blessing. Let your whole body relax as you hear this. Let the relief wash over you like a wave. You don't have to wait until you're better, stronger, more spiritual to receive God's blessing. You don't have to earn it or deserve it or become worthy of it. The moment you turn toward Him, the moment you start making space, the moment you say yes, however imperfectly, the blessing begins to flow. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of what He's like. Not because you've arrived, but because you've started the journey. Not because you're perfect, but because He is faithful. From this day on, I will bless you. These words echo through time, beloved, and they're being spoken over you tonight. From this day on, from this moment when you've been listening to God's Word, when you've been considering your ways, when you've been opening your heart to Him again. From this day on, not someday far off when you have it all together, but from right now, from this breath, from this choice to turn back toward the center, the blessing flows. And what is this blessing? It's not just material prosperity, though God cares about your practical needs. The blessing is deeper than that. It's the blessing of being connected to the source. It's the blessing of living from the center instead of the edges. It's the blessing of having God's presence at the heart of your life, making everything else lighter, brighter, more meaningful. It's the blessing of knowing you're not alone. You're not striving in your own strength. You're not trying to sustain yourself from your own empty resources. The vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, the olive tree, they haven't yielded anything yet, but the blessing is already declared, because the blessing isn't dependent on the harvest. The blessing flows from the relationship, and when you're in right relationship with God, when He's at the center and you're drawing from Him, The harvest will come in its time, not because you forced it or earned it, but because that's what happens when you're connected to the source of life. Fruit grows naturally, organically, inevitably when the root is healthy and the connection is strong. So rest tonight, dear child, in this beautiful promise. From this day on, you are blessed, not because of what you've done, but because of who God is and what He does when you turn toward Him. Not because you've finished rebuilding, but because you've started. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing. From this day on, the blessing flows. And it will keep flowing, day after day, season after season, for the rest of your life, because you've made the choice that changes everything. You've put God back at the center where He belongs. Part 6.3. I have chosen you as my signet ring. And now, my beloved child, as we come to the final words of this beautiful book, as your eyes can barely stay open and sleep is just a whisper away, let me share with you the most tender, most personal promise God gives. After speaking of blessing, after marking the turning point, God speaks one more time, and His words are like a love letter, like a father speaking to his most precious child. Listen to these words of deep affection. The word of the Lord came a second time to Haggai on the 24th day of the month. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I am about to shake the heavens and the earth, and to overthrow the throne of kingdoms. I am about to destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the nations, and overthrow the chariots and their riders, and the horses and their riders shall go down, every one by the sword of his brother. We've heard about this shaking before, beloved. We know that God is clearing away what cannot last, what isn't built on Him. But now listen to what comes after the shaking. Listen to the promise that emerges when everything false falls away. On that day, declares the Lord of hosts, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, declares the Lord, and make you like a signet ring, for I have chosen you, declares the Lord of hosts. I will take you. I will make you like a signet ring. I have chosen you. Oh, dear child, do you hear the intimacy in these words? Do you hear how personal this is? After all the shaking, after all the kingdoms fall, after all the false securities are removed, God says to this one man, to this tired governor trying to rebuild a modest temple, you are mine. I have chosen you. You are precious to me like a signet ring. A signet ring, beloved, was the most personal, most valuable possession a person could have. It bore their unique seal, their identity, their authority. When a king pressed his signet ring into wax, it was like his presence, his power, his very self making a mark. The signet ring was kept close, worn on the finger, treasured above all other possessions. And God says to Zerubbabel, that's what you are to me. That's how precious you are. That's how close I keep you. But there's more here, dear one. There's a deeper story being told. Zerubbabel was a descendant of David, part of the royal line, and through him, through this family line, The Messiah would eventually come. Jesus would be called the Son of David, would be born into this family that seemed so small and insignificant in Zerubbabel's day, but was carrying the hope of the world in their lineage. So when God says, "I have chosen you," He's not just speaking to one man. He's speaking to a whole line of grace, a river of mercy that flows through generations, a promise that will culminate in God Himself becoming human, dwelling among us, being Emmanuel, God with us. The small temple Zerubbabel was building would one day hold Jesus. The modest rebuilding would be part of the story that leads to the greatest glory of all, God becoming one of us, walking among us, loving us with a love that would go all the way to the cross and beyond. And beloved, here's what I want you to hear tonight. That same choice, that same declaration of love is spoken over you. God looks at you, tired and small and wondering if you matter, and He says, "I have chosen you. You are precious to me like a signet ring. I keep you close. I treasure you. Your life matters in ways you cannot see. The small rebuilding you're doing, the modest steps you're taking back toward me, they're part of a bigger story, a greater work, a more beautiful plan than you can imagine. You are chosen, dear child, not because you earned it, not because you're impressive or important by the world's standards, but because God, in His infinite love and wisdom, has set His affection on you. He has called you His own. He has placed His seal on you, marked you as belonging to Him, claimed you as precious and valuable beyond all measure. And just like Zerubbabel couldn't see the full story, couldn't know that his family line would carry the Messiah, couldn't understand how significant his small obedience would be in the grand sweep of redemption, you can't see the full story of your life either. You can't know how your small yes to God, your tired obedience, your modest rebuilding, how all of it fits into His greater purposes. But you don't have to see it, beloved. You just have to trust that the God who chose you, who treasures you, who keeps you close like a signet ring, He knows what He's doing. And your life, your story, your small efforts to make Him central, they matter more than you will ever know. Let your eyes close now. Let sleep come gently. Feel yourself held by the God who has chosen you, who calls you His signet ring, who treasures you beyond all telling. The shaking may come. Kingdoms may fall. Everything that seems permanent may prove temporary. But you, beloved child, you are held in the hand of God. You are kept close to His heart. You are chosen, treasured, loved with an everlasting love. And that covenant, that promise, that choice God has made to claim you as His own, it doesn't depend on your performance. It doesn't waver based on your feelings. It doesn't change when you stumble or fail or feel small. God's choice to love you is as permanent as He is, as unchanging as His nature, as eternal as His kingdom. You are His signet ring, His treasured possession, His beloved child. Sleep now in that security, dear one. Sleep wrapped in the covenant love of a God who shakes kingdoms but holds you steady, who overturns thrones but keeps you close, who judges nations but calls you chosen. The Book of Haggai ends here, but your story with God continues. Day after day, breath after breath, He walks with you. Day after day, He blesses you. Day after day, He treasures you as His own. From the empty temple to the rebuilt temple, from the distant heart to the present heart, from striving to resting, from emptiness to blessing, from fear to peace. This is the journey God invites you into, and He promises to walk every step with you, holding you close like a signet ring, never letting you go, loving you with a love that will outlast everything else in this world. You are chosen, beloved. You are treasured. You are His. And in that truth, you can finally rest, not in what you've accomplished, not in how impressive your rebuilding looks, not in whether you measure up to some standard, but in who you are to Him, precious, chosen, held close, loved beyond measure. The temple is being rebuilt, dear child, stone by stone in ancient Jerusalem, yes, but also breath by breath in your own soul. And as you continue this work, as you keep making space for God at your center, as you keep turning toward Him day after day, remember this from this day on. Blessing flows. From this moment forward, you are marked as His. From now until eternity, you are chosen, treasured, held in His hand like the most precious possession, like a signet ring that bears His image, His love, His unbreakable promise. Sleep now, beloved. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. The Lord your God has spoken. He has blessed you. He has chosen you. He has claimed you as His own. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can change that. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. Amen.